Hello, everybody, and a warm welcome to Cloud Conversations. My name is Peter Rising, and I am your sole host today. I'm flying solo for the first in a new series on Cloud Conversations, where we're going to take a little step away from our regular scheduled programming, and we're going to spend some time doing some demos for you across technologies within Microsoft 365. I have the distinct honor of going first in this new feature, and I'm going to talk to you today about some compliance features in Microsoft 365, specifically eDiscovery and advanced eDiscovery. Don't worry, before you panic, we're not changing things up completely. We will be back with regular guests in our regular format, but this is something we've been talking about doing for a while, and adding more content to the channel and giving you some useful demos. What I would say is the content that we talk about in these demos, just be mindful, look at the dates on the channel when you're looking at these, because the content is probably only good for a short period of time. Maybe it's about 6 months after the time of recording. Things are likely to have changed given the pace of which Microsoft introduced new features and change the names of things and the locations of things in admin centers. So that's the plan. That is the plan. So what I'm planning to do with this is talk to you about advanced eDiscovery, which is what it says on the tin. It's the most advanced form of eDiscovery. I'm going to start off by going through a very brief slide deck. I'm not going to drain the slides too much, but I'm just going to set the scene for what eDiscovery is. Then we'll jump into a demo tenant, which I've got. It's vanilla, it's completely untouched. I'm going to go through the process of setting up an advanced eDiscovery case and showing you what that looks like and some of the things you're going to need to watch out for and the roles that you're going to need to add. And this will definitely not be done in one part. This is not going to be a one-part video, shall we say. So that's as far as we'll get today. And then in the coming videos, we'll pick up and we'll look at the results of the eDiscovery cases that I'm going to set up and create today, and see the output and the outcome of that and the sort of things you can do with them. So let's just dive into some slides, which I will bring up on screen, and I will share with you very briefly. Here we go. Yes, we are in. Oh, and I've started at slide 4. That's very good. Okay, back to slide 1. Let's just set the scene. What exactly is eDiscovery? eDiscovery, or electronic discovery, it's the process of identifying and delivering electronic information that can be used as evidence in legal cases. Not just legal cases, though. These can be any sort of investigations that you have the need to conduct in your organization, internal investigations or external investigations, and you can search within the services included in Microsoft 365, such as Exchange Online, M365 Groups, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Yammer. Licensing. Again, I'm not going to drain this slide, but very, very quickly, the basic concept of licensing with eDiscovery as the E3 in that vicinity is going to give you the core eDiscovery functionality. E5 or add-ins for E5, like E5 compliance, that sort of thing, is going to get you up to that advanced eDiscovery level. Feel free to just pause on that or screenshot that. And this, to the best of my knowledge, is up to date at the time of this broadcast. But please be mindful that this is likely to change. Okay, next slide. We're going to talk a little bit about role groups when we get into the demo. Very, very briefly, there are two roles within the eDiscovery role groups in the compliance center. There are eDiscovery managers who can use content search and search content locations and perform various search-related actions, create cases, but most importantly, they can only access and manage the cases that they create. They can't access or manage cases created by other eDiscovery managers. This is where eDiscovery administrators come in. They are a member of the eDiscovery manager role group and can perform the same content searches and case management related tasks that eDiscovery managers can perform. But in addition to that, they can access all the cases that are listed on the eDiscovery and advanced eDiscovery pages in the Compliance Center, access case data in advanced eDiscovery for any case in the organization, and manage any eDiscovery case after they add themselves as a member of the case. Okay, so I'm going to just set the scene with 3 technology principles here. The first one is content search, not technically a part of eDiscovery in and of itself, but it is used within core eDiscovery. But it can be used on its own as well to search Microsoft 365 locations and export the results. So this is really the entry point into these sort of compliance functions, conducting content searches or content searches. Then we move up to core eDiscovery, which does a little bit more. You can do the same sort of things. You can search M365 locations, you can export the results, and you can create holds, in this case with core eDiscovery. But the big one, the one that does it all, is advanced eDiscovery, and this is really a workflow, end-to-end workflow methodology, which is used to collect and review and analyze content within your organization. And you can do so much more with advanced eDiscovery, creating holds, export the results, same principle, do searches by creating what are called collections, which we'll take a look at. And more importantly, you can do things like extract conversation views for things like the conversations in emails and Microsoft Teams. Manage custodians. Custodians are essentially users, and we'll have a look at that when we set up a case. And add the results to what are called review sets, which you can do all sorts of great stuff with when you have access to them. Things like redacting content, filtering, tagging, all sorts of powerful stuff can be done with advanced eDiscovery. One of the technology principles that you will hear me talk about here and there is something called the Microsoft 365 substrate. Who needs to know about this? Really, nobody who's using advanced eDiscovery or eDiscovery technically needs to know about this. It's kind of like the secret sauce that makes everything work behind the scenes. But your average compliance administrator, the people who are searching for content for eDiscovery searches, wanting to know things like where to target their retention policies, they're not going to care about this thing. But just to set the scene, to explain that it's there, every piece of data in an Office 365 tenant is stored in the substrate. And this data can be either native to the substrate, or it can be in the form of a digital twin, which is replicated from another store. So an example of that is like the Teams chat and channel messages, which are actually stored within the Azure Cosmos database chat service. Excuse me. When items come from another store, they're often a subset of the original, which contain just enough information needed to support functions such as search and information protection. So handy to know that it's there. This is what it looks like. I wanted to call out from a Teams point of view, because it's Teams is a very good example that we will dig into when we get into our advanced eDiscovery case in terms of what we can do with it and how it works. But I've got to give credit, before I go any further, to the wonderful Joanne Klein, MVP, for this slide. She very kindly shared it with me after I spotted it in a session that she did recently at Teams Nation. So thank you, Joanne, for allowing me to use it. This shows the process of the Teams backend for compliance, and this is very relevant to eDiscovery searches. So we've got Teams on the left there. Teams chat and channel messages are stored in the Azure Cosmos DB chat service. The Office 365 substrate then makes a copy, puts a compliance copy into Exchange mailboxes, which then can be used in eDiscovery searches. You can target your retention policies towards them as well. So when you're doing those searches, you're not actually searching the straight. You're not actually searching the Cosmos DB chat service. So whilst it's interesting to know that that is there, compliance admins, people doing the searches, they don't need to know that. It's not important. Okay, so that has set the scene for us quite nicely. So now we find ourselves in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center at compliance.microsoft.com. Before we get into eDiscovery, let's just take a look at some of the permissions that I briefly touched upon in the slide deck. And to do that, we need to go into the permissions and roles area here. It's important to point out that to get this far, you will need to have an Azure AD role of some description that gets you this far. In my case, I am logged in as a global administrator, perhaps not the best example, not what you would really do in the real world. You would log in as somebody who is a compliance admin or a compliance data admin, more likely. Your general global admin would not be the sort of person who is carrying out these investigations, but they have access to get to here. But these are Azure AD roles, and it's important to understand the distinction between those and Compliance Center roles. So if we drill down into Compliance Center roles here, we can scroll down and we can see a number of roles, but the one we're interested in is the eDiscovery Manager. So if we go into there, we can have a look at what this role group does. eDiscovery Manager is able to perform searches, place holds on various locations. It has a number of sub roles assigned into this group, such as case management, communication compliance search, custodian, export capabilities, hold, preview, review, and RMS decrypt. What you can do, and something that we will take a look at a later episode in this series, is create compliance boundaries that can be used in eDiscovery, and you can set up your own custom roles, which will enable segmentation where appropriate. But that's a unnecessary segue at this point. But as I alluded to earlier, the eDiscovery Manager has two sub-roles in here. There's the eDiscovery Manager, who can only view and access cases to which he or she has access, an eDiscovery Administrator, who can view and edit all cases regardless of permissions. So we can go in here and we can grant people access to these roles. So we could, for example, go in and choose our eDiscovery Manager. As an example here, I will go in and I will add in Deborah Berger. Actually, I'll choose Adele because she's normally first in the list and she's the name that I remember the most. She's sort of my go-to guinea pig. So we'll add in Adele, and then I'll remember who I've added in later when I come back to this point. And then you can add more in if you want to, which is not what I want to do here. I've got Adele there. I can click on Done. So there we go. Adele is a selected eDiscovery Manager, and I can save that. I can also go in and choose the eDiscovery Administrator. For the purposes of this, I'm going to choose the admin user that I'm logged in as here. This is the system administrator. Again, not what you would really do, but just for the purposes of showing you how this works. So if I go system admin, there we go. So that's granting access to those roles. Okay, so that's the role group, which is important to know about. We can close that off. And job is a good one, as we say. If we scroll further down the Compliance Center, we can see the eDiscovery section. Just a little bit above it, we can see content search on its own in a different section, indicating that whilst it integrates into core eDiscovery, it's not actually considered a part of the eDiscovery tool set. It's something that eDiscovery leverages. But here we've got eDiscovery, and we've got the core eDiscovery and the advanced eDiscovery. There's also something here called user data search. I'm not going to cover that today. We'll cover that in a later session. We're only interested in these aspects of eDiscovery. We'll take a a very quick look into the core eDiscovery looks like here. I won't even go as far as creating a case, but you'll see that it's very, very simple. There's not much to it here. If you go and create a case, you put a name, a description, you can save it, and then go and configure some of your settings. We may do a video on that at a later point, but I'm really interested to share with you advanced eDiscovery today, and that's what we're going to take a look at. So here we go into advanced eDiscovery and we get into an overview section, and we can see in the overview section permissions. It says here that you're an eDiscovery manager. You've got full access to the cases that you're a member of. Recent cases, we can see here some of my attempts at playing about with a case just earlier, which needs to be aborted because that was not entirely successful. I will go into cases and you can see that there, but what we'll do is we'll get rid of that one before we start. I'll collapse the sidebar, and what we'll do is we shall go into the case, and in order to delete it, already showing you some of the good stuff here. In order to delete it, you will need to go into the settings and the actions, and here we go, and delete the case from there. So I'm going to start from scratch here and show you it from the very beginning. Okay, before you create a case, what you can do here is actually just be aware of this cogwheel here, and from here you can click on the advanced eDiscovery settings, and under analytics here, you can activate the toggle switch for attorney-client privilege detections if required. So what this does when enabling that setting, it allows you to analyze data within your working set. And if you have attorney-client privilege detection set to on, it's going to run that privilege model on the data and flag documents that are likely to be privileged based on the content. So you can choose files from here and add them in if you need to. That's the only advanced advanced eDiscovery setting that you can really control at this moment in time. I wouldn't be at all surprised if further content comes into here at some point. So we'll come out of that and we'll go back and go into cases. Okay, so what we want to do is create a case. Let's go through the process. And if we hit some roadblocks, we hit some roadblocks. And it's good for you to get a flavor of the sort of things you might come up against when creating these cases and things to watch out for. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a case and I'm going to call it the Mark 8 project search. The Mark 8 project case even. Those of you familiar with Microsoft demo tenants will know that there's a team or a SharePoint site in these demo environments, which is called Mark 8 Project. So I'm going to use this as a guinea pig to search against. You can put a case number in if you want to. Be as descriptive here as you possibly can. Put in a good case name that you're going to remember. Put in a case number if you're using a case numbering system. And a good description. For the purposes of demoing, I'm just going to put demo because I'm being lazy. You have some further options here before you go ahead and save and create your case. You have the option you can go ahead and add members or configure the analytics settings immediately after saving it, or you can just return to the home page and use default settings for now. I want to add stuff immediately, so I'll leave that the way it is. It's recommended to use the newer case format as well. The classic case format experience is still available right now, but it's going to be deprecated soon, so I wouldn't recommend using that. Go with the new stuff because you're going to get improved features and so on and so forth. So we will go with that. We'll go and save our new advanced eDiscovery case with our name, number, description, and it's going to take us right in to configure additional settings. And here we are. Now, the first thing that I notice upon coming in here, and we just mentioned custodians, but we don't see a custodians tab here. Now, I paused the video for a few moments there, as we didn't have any custodian settings available initially when we came into the case. I've refreshed a few times, and now I can see this data sources tab here, which is where the custodian content is. Now, that took a little while to appear because you'll recall just a few moments ago, I added myself to the eDiscovery Role Manager group. Without that, you're not going to get access to this tab. So you need to add the eDiscovery Manager role group permissions as appropriate, and then give it a bit of time, and you'll see the data sources here. So this is the first thing that I want to do actually, before I get into setting up my collection within my eDiscovery, my advanced eDiscovery case. Before I even get to that, though, where it does take you to when you initially set up the case is into the settings. And just very, very briefly, there are three areas here which are important to be aware of. We've got case information, access and permissions, and search and analytics. I'll not drain these too much because these are something that I could get into more detail on later videos. I just want to get through setting up a case today and show you what that looks like. But the case information here, basically what we set up earlier, we can change that if we need to. We can take some actions here to close the case or delete the case, or copy support information. Access and permissions here, we can add or remove members or add and remove role groups who have permissions to the case. And then we've got some search and analytics settings here that we can configure as well. So here we can set things like near duplicates and email threading. We can set things like themes. We can ignore text, specific text in here, and add things like regular expressions and apply that to near duplicates or email threads or themes. And we can enable optical character recognition here as well. I won't change anything for the purposes of this search, but important to be aware that these on a case-by-case setting can be influenced. So we've got a lot of tabs here. So if we go to the overview here, we can see we've got no custodians yet, nobody on hold. We're going to be able to come back here later when we've committed our data sources and our collections and added to a review set, and we're going to see some statistics there later on. But what we want to do next is we want to go into data sources. So here we've got the choice to add data sources. And what we can do is we can add two types of data sources. So we can add new custodians. We can add those, or we can import them, and we can add data locations. So when you think custodians, basically think users. Essentially, a custodian is essentially a user within your Microsoft 365 environment. So if I want to add a new custodian here, I can go in and type the name of that person. So let's just type in Deborah, who, let's try Adele. Yeah, there we go, Adele. So we can add in Adele as a custodian. We could also add in Megan as a custodian as well. We'll add Megan in. So we'll add a few custodians who are users that we want to add these into our collection when we get to that point. So I'll just select those two for now. We go click next. And what you can do here is you can choose if you want to put your custodians and place them on hold or not. So it's defaulted to do so. And that is commonly something that you would do in advanced eDiscovery cases. So I'll leave that checked for the purposes of this demonstration. So here we can review our custodians, and we can see that we've got two users here. The following users and their associated data locations will be added to your list of custodians for this case, and the content is going to be put on hold for them. So I'm going to submit those custodians. And in a few moments, it should complete that for me. There we go. New custodians are created. And there we go. We've got Megan and Adele in there as well. You can add non-custodian data locations as well. So you can go in and you can add in SharePoint sites or Exchange locations, mailbox locations that are not tied to a custodian if you need to as well at this point. I'll not do that for the purposes of this example. I'll just collapse that there so we've got a bit more, as they say, screen real estate. So here you'll get updates on some of the status. We've got changes in progress at the moment, applying the hold. The indexing is in progress. If you check back here later on, you'll see different statuses as things progress. Now, what we can do, what we want to do next is go into collections. And this is what used to be known as searches, but Microsoft changed it to collections quite a while back now. But we've got no collection set up just yet. So we want to go ahead and create one. And it takes us through the wizard to create our collection. So there's some steps we need to go through. It tells you here to create it, you need to give it a name, identify the collection scope and search conditions. And the collections are unique searches that will constitute a review set. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do the Mark 8 project search and searching for Mark 8 content. Okay, we're going to go next. Now here is where we can add in our custodial data sources. These are the custodians that we selected earlier on. So these are the people whose content you want to search to gather evidence for the case. You can add more custodians later, and you can also choose what locations you like to make available to search. So we can select custodians here on an individual basis, or we can go ahead and select them all, and that's what we'll do here. So selecting them all will add in Adele, and it will add in Megan at this point. So we can go ahead and click next. We didn't set up any non-custodial sources, as you'll recall. If I click on that, I won't be able to select any there because I've not set any up. So we can skip that part, but that could be done quite easily had you done so. And then you can choose any additional locations that you might want to search. So an additional location is defined here is a data source that is not associated with the custodians that you selected on the previous step. So these additional locations will not include advanced indexing rules unless they are added as data sources in the case. So an important distinction there, but you can add additional locations here to be searched, such as Exchange mailboxes, which will include Microsoft 365 groups, Teams, Yammer user messages, SharePoint sites, which will include OneDrive sites, Yammer networks, M365 group sites, and team sites. And you can do Exchange public folders as well, but goodness me, hopefully you're not using those. But hey, some people are. Okay, so what I might do is I might just select Exchange mailboxes as additional search criteria just for this example. You can get granular here. You can go in and include or exclude depending on what is the best methodology for you, and you can include the mailboxes of certain other users here. So I could, for example, go in and specifically include Alex Wilbur or Lynn Robbins. We could do that as an example. Note that that immediately takes the excluded option away. We'll leave it at that for the purposes of our search. Okay, so next, here is where we get into the specifics of our collection conditions. These are the conditions that are going to apply to the custodial and non-custodial data sources that you have defined, and this was going to populate your collection. So you can enter keywords here, or use the keyword list, and you can also add conditions to narrow your search results. So here we can make a choice between condition card builder here and use the keywords, or you can switch to the KQL editor and go down that route as well. I'll stick for this example with the condition card builder. KQL editor is something we can come back and have a look at for another session. I want to keep this one simple to begin with. So what we can add in here is some keywords that we might want to search against. So I'll put in Mark 8 as an example. And there we go. If I hit return there, it's going to separate that there in the keyword format. I believe from memory there is something in the Mark 8 case which is something along the lines of X1 or 50 or something like that. Let's see if I get that right, but time will tell. We can add in further conditions here if you want to. You can get granular and you can search by date, by particular sender or author, by size, subject and title. You can search on a particular attention label, type of message, all sorts of different criteria that you can put in place here. Again, going to keep it quite simple just for this first example. Okay, now what you can do at this point when you click next is you can choose before you commit things and process them to a review set. You can get collection estimates and the collection will be saved for further review and refinement, but the results won't be committed at this point. So this is kind of like a test mode, if you like. It's going to give you a draft that'll contain estimated collection results and a preview that you can use to validate the scope of your collection before you go ahead and commit it. Let's assume we've already done that. We're going to go devil may care here and just fly by the seat of our pants, which is the way I like to work, but I don't endorse that really. But here we go. What we want to do is collect items and add them to a review set. Here's where we've got to give our review set a name. So we're going to go ahead and we'll inventively again call it the Mark 8 search review set. You could, at this point, if you had any, add your items in the collection to an existing review set. That is a choice that you have there as well. So we're going to add it to a new review set in this case, though. There are some additional collection settings that you can put in place here. Now, these collection parameters will only apply to new items that haven't been collected in this case. So options that are selected by default and disabled are assigned by the case format. So you can see we've got two grayed out here, and it's not going to give us the choice here to deselect these first ones, where it's going to choose for us to collect contextual teams and Yammer messages around your search results. What that means is, imagine a Teams chat, and we've got a chat with Adele, and we've got Megan in that chat as well. And if there are search results that match the context of your collection criteria, then it's going to present that as in a conversation format, which is something that core eDiscovery does not do. You'll get individual search results. So this is one of the key benefits of advanced eDiscovery in this case. So here, what we can also do is, well, the other one that we can't change is collect cloud attachments from items found in your search results. So any attachments associated with the content that we're searching against, they're going to be included as well by default. A couple of the selections that we can influence here, we can choose to collect partially indexed items related to your search results. So these items are not included in your estimate, and including these items can significantly increase the number of items added to your review set. So that's important to be aware of. You can collect all versions of SharePoint items as well, which also can significantly increase the volume of items that you are adding to your review set. And then finally, we have a couple of choices here. We can add all of our collection to our review set, which is what I'm going to do. Again, you can do a further validation here by adding only a collection sample to the review set, and you can edit the sample parameters. And that's going to give you just a final piece of validation to make sure you're along the right lines. But I'm going to go ahead and commit this. I can see a review of my collection here, so it's going to remind me of the name and description and all of that good stuff, the search criteria, locations, all that good stuff. If we click on the data source tab here, we can see the custodial data sources that we set up. We can edit those if we want to. The non-custodial data sources as well, which we didn't set any up. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that now. So there we go. That is creating a new collection. Our new collection is created, and it gives us a little message here that the collection will be added to your review set as a draft collection. And you can calculate estimates for this collection as well as view a representative selection of its results from the collections list. And once you are satisfied with the results, you can commit this collection to the review set. So you can add more data sources to this case at this point if you want to, but I'm not. I'm going to click on done. And here we can see we have our collection with its name there, the market project search. The status is progressing. Our query text is in there, our two query text criteria, the runtime, and the estimate status and the preview status. So we can see here that it is in progress on both of those columns here right now. And now we have to wait. We have to wait until this is completed, or well, in actual fact, you don't. But you should do, because if you go into review sets now on the next tab along, you can see that it's there, but there's no content in there just yet. It's processing. So this is the point where we would pause for thought, and we'll come back and we'll pick this up in the next episode of what happens next, and go into some of these other areas here as well. So that just about does it for our first video for this new series of Cloud Conversations demos. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, and please do go and find us on YouTube at youtube.com/c/cloud conversations. Please do us the enormous favor of hitting the subscribe button if you would be so kind. Looking at our statistics, a good percentage of our viewers are not subscribed, and if you go ahead and click that subscribe button, then it does us a lot of good. It enables us to get a wider reach, and continue to make even more great content for you. So that would be great. You can also find our content on podcast format on Anchor.fm, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Twitter at CloudCons365, and you can reach out to all of us individually as well. I'm one of an amazing gang of four, as I'm sure you all know by now. So you can find myself and Azure and Kat and Rue on Twitter, on LinkedIn. We ain't hard to find. We're always happy to talk and debate all things Microsoft 365. So thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back again with the next part of this demonstration on advanced eDiscovery, and I can't wait. So thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.